Hello and welcome, everybody. Welcome to the No Name Music Cast. My name's Tim, and this is
Joy.
And here at the top of the show, we have music news, as we normally do, and I think we're going to hand this over to Joy.
I mean, it's not really news as much as it's news to Tim.
Yeah, I suppose. It's still news.
Yeah, she did a recent concert that I came across. So for those who don't know a lot about Miley Cyrus, it kind of still paint her in her old school Miley, The Climb. I hate that song, by the way, Tim, just so you know. Do you remember Miley Cyrus's The Climb, Tim?
To be honest, before yesterday, I had not heard any really of Miley Cyrus's music. I maybe heard Wrecking Ball, probably, but outside of that, my knowledge of Miley Cyrus was someone who shocked people and stuff and used to be on Disney or something. But that is about all I knew about Miley Cyrus up to yesterday evening.
Well, I will sing you The Climb. It's this country song she did that I can't stand. But anyway, it was everywhere if you lived in Southwest Virginia during this time period. So I am very well aware that Miley did the whole kind of come up thing, and people still thought of her as Hannah Montana, and her dad's Billy Ray, and her godmother's, Dolly Parton, and like that kind of stuff. But they don't know a whole lot about her singing ability. Well, she had that song Flowers that came out that was like number one of the largest number ones for like 12 weeks recently, and I have personally listened to her a lot, and she's grown as a singer. Now, I was thinking about this though. Sometimes I struggle with that because she has the money and the funds to have people teach her to sing, Ted, and she's in contact with the right people who can help brush up her skills. But she's very talented, very good singer. But and so I was listening to a lot of her covers. She's one of those people that can do really good covers. She has a raspy voice that you might have heard. And last night I was listening to her version of Man Eater. Yes, the Hall & Oates song. And I asked him to listen to it. I think he was pleasantly surprised.
I was completely blown away. I'll be honest. I knew nothing really about Miley Cyrus, how she sang, anything like that, or what the Miley Cyrus entails. That for me, Miley Cyrus is someone who you always see paparazzi pictures of her with no clothes on, and it's like, for goodness sake, Miley, keep your clothes on, love.
Fair enough.
Mean, that's pretty much where I was with Miley Cyrus. But now, yeah, I don't know. I've listened to all these covers, and before we came on the air today, I wouldn't say a deep dive, but a moderate dive into the world of Miley Cyrus's rock covers. And she has an amazing rock voice, and it blew me away. Now, let me tell you what I was listening to before we started recording. I listened to her doing they're all live versions, by the way. I don't know if there's studio stuff of this exists, but they're all live versions. I had seen her do Like a Prayer, Madonna's song. She did a Rebel Yell together with Billy Idol. Yep. She did an absolutely killer version of Led Zeppelin's Black Dog. Of course, Manita, you spoke of Zombie. I don't know. I mean, she may be the best female rock vocalist out there right now, and that is high praise for someone I'd never really heard sing 12 hours ago.
Well, and here's the thing: is she's probably an alto, I would say, by just listening to her. But she has a very interesting way of staying on key, but still almost sounding a little bit below the notes in a way, Tim, but it's still in key, and it's wonderful. The one that got me was the Heart of Glass one.
Yeah. I mean, that was like, she was singing it in her own style, but it was like classic Debbie Harry good.
And the thing about it is that I've told Tim this many times. I have sang anything I'll find the video and post it on the Facebook, Tim, of me in college on stage with my choir singing Hated in the Time of War, like advanced music pieces that like I sang when I was like younger and all these things. My mom and dad sat through these concerts. Charlie had to sit there. I'm sure he was bored out of his mind. But anyway, my point being, the two people that have humbled me the most when I try to sing any of their music is anything by Blondie and anything by Heart. Heart of Glass is a deceptively hard song to sing well. Anybody can sing it, but to sing it well, it is hard. There's a lot of changes in it. The pitch doesn't quite match. The rhythm's not exact. You have to do it very, 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 you have to think about it consciously to sing that song well. Tried it once, and I was very humbled, Tim. And then I've tried other songs it's just hard. And then the band Heart is the other one that I've said many times. I tried singing them once and I went, we're turning this off. Like I was embarrassed for myself. Never again.
Yeah, I mean, the vocalists in Heart are absolutely amazing. Yeah, Anne and Nancy Wilson, as we've said before. You know, the other thing about Miley Cyrus as well is that, like, you get a lot of, like, pop, quote unquote, pop singers, your Katy Perry's and the like. Yes, you know, they've grown up performing and they have a good stage act and, you know, they know how to address the crowd and they know how to position themselves on stage and all that kind of, those kind of skills that you learn as you go along. But the thing is about Miley Cyrus, I mean, obviously she can do all that because, I mean, you know, she's a qualified stagecraft person. It's probably not the right way of describing it, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But she has a real rock and roll swagger about her too. Like, you know, she comes on that stage, she owns that stage, she has a real attitude about her.
And very Joan Jett.
Yeah, and she's got a real, you know, a real kind of way about her as she performs. And I was not expecting that.
Well, I'm so happy I got to, because see, her, and if you never deep dived into Kelly Clarkson's covers, Tim, because some people are good singers, but they don't do good covers. Does that make sense? But Miley does amazing covers, and she's a good singer. Kelly Clarkson also does really good covers that will shock you if you've never, you know, dove into that one. But yeah, Miley's definitely got a very Joan Jett meets, I don't know, but she's still her own. Like she owns it. And I pretty much went through every song that you pointed out, Tim, last night when I was watching all these videos. It was fun. Yeah,
I came up here for about an hour before we hit record just to go through them because I was really, really surprised. I think one of the standout ones, as I said, was her doing Rebel Yell with Billy Idol. And you know, you often get that where you get like a singer will sit in with the original artist and they share verses. And there was one with, I think it could have been Kelly Clarkson or someone like that, who was singing with Axl Rose and they were doing Welcome to the Jungle or something. And it's like, it's what you'd expect. Like, this is okay. Oh yeah, that's cool. It's Axl and whoever it was. Yeah. But I don't know, the Billy Idol, Miley Cyrus, it was just like, wow, this is, and like, not only that, she knew that song so well, intimately all the way through. And it was like, you know, she had a real deep respect for the song too.
And they work well on stage together. There was a good stage presence. But I think Tim hit the nail on the head when it comes to someone who's like a rock artist is also the showmanship on stage.
Sure.
And if you watch her, she's truly playing, I don't want to say playing that part, but she does it really well.
Absolutely. Now, I want to put an idea out there. How's this for an idea? As we all know, I'm not a big fan of the Queen and Adam Lambert connection. I have nothing against Adam Lambert. He is an amazing singer. But for me, he's a Broadway singer. His voice is too pure. He has an amazing range. He can sing all those Freddie Mercury songs all day without breaking into a sweat. And he can do that. And I've got nothing against him. And, you know, I've listened to some of his solo stuff and I like it. But the two of them together for me, I hear it together and I'm just like, ugh. That's what I think. But wouldn't it have been great if they had Miley Cyrus front in that band? Because she has she can sing that very pure kind of sort of Broadway-ish type thing, like you know, a trained singer can. But she's got that real kind of rock and roll rasp to it. Well, and I just think if she was singing those songs, it would just be so much better.
It would. And, well, it would even just be better in that sense. Like, I love Adam Lambert. I actually liked one of his albums. I've got 2 or 3 of his albums from his solo career. And he was on Glee at one point. He does. He has a theater background. Like, that's just that. So sometimes that doesn't translate quite as well. I think he's fun. I think he's theatrical. I think he's talented. But I understand what Tim's saying. And there's some type of, it's almost like a genuine authenticity that people who are really good with rock have that he kind of misses the mark on. And also, I think Freddie Mercury would find it really cool to have a female leading the band now. Like, I feel like he would love that.
Yeah, I would prefer that. I would prefer something completely different. And I don't know. This is something I never considered until, you know, an hour ago. But I was thinking, wouldn't it be better?
Wouldn't it be nice? Anyway, that's what I was thinking when Tim said that. Also, if you haven't seen her with Stevie Nicks, her and Stevie Nicks were really good together too, Tim. Just when you go on your next YouTube round.
Well, I will have a look at it. I just put Miley Cyrus rock covers, and then there was, you know, all these songs that I just mentioned.
Oh, you did that on your hit clips machine, I'm assuming.
I've got them all on mini disc. It's
All right. Well, what was your music news, stories, life aspirations, whatever it is you're opening with?
Okay, so I just have a couple of things. The first thing, this is news that came out today. We're recording this on November the 9th, 2023. And I think this came out yesterday, in fact. But I got a little pop-up this morning telling me that this was the case. So as we all know, my journey with the Spotify.
Yes.
And how I've decided to embrace this. And at the end of this year, it will be exactly 1 year while I've been embracing the Spotify.
Yeah.
And I had a pop-up this morning about this, and then also I then read the news article about it. So if you're a Spotify premium subscriber, and it's normally $10.99 a month you pay, or $11.99. I mean, that's in dollars. I think it's $10.99 in dollars, and it's something different in pounds, and it's about that kind of thing. It's $10 and change depending on wherever you are. And that gives you unlimited ad-free listening of all the songs that you want to listen to on Spotify. And also it lets you listen to podcasts too, which, they're free wherever. And, many of our listeners listen to our show on Spotify.
Yes.
About a year ago, they decided to embrace the world of audiobooks. And their model was different to Audible. Now, Audible, you pay a monthly subscription, and it's a certain amount of tokens or something, is depending on how many hours you can listen to. And I don't think you get to keep the books or something like that. And Apple have a thing where you just have to buy the books individually if you want to listen to them. Now, Spotify, they use the Apple model where you had to go into their store, and then you'd buy each one on as you wanted them, and they were all about the same price: $7, $8, $10, depending on what kind of book that you wanted. The problem is if you're an iPhone user like me, you couldn't purchase them on the app because there's some kind of weird thing with Apple wanting some kind of commission off those micropayments or some jazz like that. So you had to go on the computer app to buy them, or it'd send you on a link to a website, and the whole thing was just super convoluted. Mm-hmm. But what they've decided to do for your $10.99 or however much it is wherever you are in the world, you now get every month for free, included in that subscription, 15 hours of audiobooks.
That's cool.
And they have around 200,000 audiobooks in their library, and about 70% of them are there for free. Now, I think anything that's super new is probably not going to be in that free deal. But that said, they have a couple of books that just came out, and I think they're doing that just so it's like the headlines. Oh, look, we have yada, yada, yada. And I think one of them they have, in fact, is the Britney Spears book.
Which is all over the internet, and I don't even know if me and Tim need to get into it. There's been some bombshells that come out of that book. Absolutely. I haven't gotten my hands on it yet, Tim, but I'm debating ordering it.
Well, there we are. Well, if you're a Spotify premium subscriber, you could listen to the audiobook for free.
Yeah, you just said that, and I am those things. So maybe that'll be what I do after this. I will say I use Libby, which is the free library app. Have you ever heard of that, Tim?
I have. I subscribed to that for a little bit, but I didn't get as much use out of it as I thought I would.
I like to tell myself I'm going to read a lot more books than I actually do. So,
yeah, controversially, I don't really enjoy reading books. I find it a chore, an absolute chore to read a book.
Charlie does too.
Yeah, I've got it here. Look, obviously you can't see this because it's an audio-only podcast. This is the Darkness 20th Anniversary Permission to Land CD box set type thing that I got for my birthday. And, we did the episode a bunch of episodes ago about this. And this, as well as having all the CDs in it, it effectively has a novel in it telling you all about the band. Everything in that is completely and utterly fascinating to me. I loved learning everything that's in this. It's taken me over a month to read this, and it's not even, a full-size book. I don't know. It's just I don't get a lot of joy out of reading books. I can read for hours on the internet, and I really enjoy audiobooks, but something about sitting there with a book, turning the pages, I don't know. It's just not for me.
I go through waves where I want to. So, for example, once again, this is an audio podcast, and me and Tim keep telling you about physical things you can't see. But there's a bookshelf over here, Tim. Bookshelf. Do you know what's on it? Funko Pops, stuffed animals, literal VHSs. Mm-hmm. One small shelf of books, and then some figurines at the bottom. So, that's what my bookshelf looks like. I enjoy reading, but I go through like times where I like to read, and I am a hard sell because I have a theory, and this is just a theory about people who are really into music, Tim.
Mm-hmm.
I swear our attention span is about 3 minutes long because that's about the average length of a song.
I think you're probably right. I mean, there's lots of like TV content that I like, and I normally find 45 minutes is about my attention span on the whole.
But it's limited because it takes a really good one to get you in, doesn't it, Tim, though? Because you're like me, there's only certain shows you really, really like.
Yeah. And having watched all the Knight Rider episodes a million times, they run at about 42 minutes, which is perfect.
Yeah. And so, but have you ever caught yourself watching a news show and about 3 minutes is when you're kind of like, oh, I like this, or no, I'm out of it. I'm convinced it's because that's the length of a song.
Do they make new shows? I'm not sure about that.
I don't know, Tim. Miley Cyrus was on one once. Anyway, for those who didn't vote in our poll, the winner was, it's for those who don't know, we've been trying to up a little bit of our Facebook engagement, and we did a poll, and everybody guessed Tim's age. Tim shared it to his Facebook. Tim is 107 by Facebook standards. There was another option that said, actually, Tim is a ghost, and that came in second. I voted for ghost.
I'm really here. Look, it's really me. Look.
That's what a ghost would say. I may have wrote the poll, everyone. I don't know.
And actually, going to what Joy was saying, we are trying to build our Facebook engagement. I've pretty much given up with Twitter, X Twitter, whatever it's called. I still dip in very occasionally, but I'm not on there anymore. And I see a lot of fellow like indie podcasters have seemed to have sort of bailed on it too. So we're trying to build our Facebook presence a little bit more. It seems to be that it's where most of the people are. I mean, Instagram is cool. And, there's a big community building over on Blue Sky. I think Threads, I won't say Threads is dead, but Threads doesn't seem to be driving that much. I mean, the conversation over on Blue Sky seems to be a lot more vibrant. But I think most people are on Facebook, and I think that's probably where we need to be for the bulk of our stuff. So if you haven't already, please like our Facebook page, which is facebook.com/no-name-music-cast. And if you could maybe like that page and then share it to your friends and, I don't know, print it out and nail it to notice boards. I don't know how that works these days.
Bulletin boards on the back of your carriage. But in all seriousness, also Instagram. We have a pretty good Instagram following too, but that kind of falls with Facebook, I think, because they're connected. And I think Instagram is the reason why Threads never really made it. They were too similar.
Well, I think the reason Threads never made it is they had the golden opportunity to take all of Twitter's thunder, because Twitter's going down the pan. But what they did is they launched far too early. They didn't have a fully featured product to deliver. What they delivered was sort of half-baked. It didn't have the following feed. It didn't have a desktop app. It didn't have this. It didn't have that. And they sort of launched it with nothing, and everyone was like, oh, this is no good, and then just went. And I think they've lost that initial kind of thrust.
There was no real marketing. Like, I haven't seen any marketing towards it at all. Like, they didn't really market it.
Well, I suppose they don't feel they have to, because Instagram has got such a massive presence. They felt that, well, why do we need to advertise this?
See, I disagree with that. But anyway, this is not a podcast on marketing. So do you have any other things you want to go over before we get into the topic, Tim?
Yeah, I have one other thing. So this was interesting, and this came out this week too. Tracy Chapman has won a country music award for Fast Car 35 years after it was released, because Luke Combs has done a cover of it.
Okay. I have very strong feelings about this. So for those who don't know, Charles's absolute favorite song, period, if you asked him on the spot, would be Fast Car by Tracy Chapman. Mm-hmm. I love this song, but I've almost heard it so much that it's mind-numbing. Well, I don't listen to the radio, don't do modern-day things, and work from home. So I basically live in four walls that never see the light of day. Besides when I walk my dog and go to Kroger. Anyway, so with that being said, I didn't know there was a country version of this song. Well, Charlie, my husband, occasionally Ubers and Lyfts and does all these things where you're in your car, because we live in a college town. And when he does, a lot of his antenna went out on his satellite radio, So no more accent for Tim. He's got to get Charlie. He's got to get the thing replaced. So he had to listen to the modern day radio. And sadly, he had heard this version. I did not know this. Got in his car and it started playing, and I see a physical upset reaction out of Charlie. And I figured out what was going on because he thought for a second it was the version he liked. And he was like, I hate this. And I was like, wait a second, what is that? Have you heard it, Tim?
No, I've never, ever heard it. This article that I was reading was the first time I'd ever heard of this.
Okay, if you like it, like what you like, you don't have to justify it to be. But it did not, I was very sad when I heard it, Tim. I'm going to be honest with you, because Tracy Chapman, it's not that it's bad in the sense of like it's technically bad or it sounds bad. There's something very interesting and fun and intricate about Tracy Chapman's voice that doesn't come through with this Luke Combs guy.
Yeah, well, I mean, the Tracy Chapman song is perfect. It's an amazing song. She's such an amazing singer, and this is her song, and she's singing it with passion. And I don't know. I don't think how you could ever cover it and make it better or equal to the original.
Yeah, it was just it's like me with the Werewolves in London versus that guy that Kid Rock sings all night long, Summer or something. It was Charlie's version of that. For a second, he had hope, and then it vanquished the hope in his eyes. But anyway, yes, I have been subjugated to it once, Tim, and but I'm happy for Tracy Chapman.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy that she got honored. And, you know, it's a big thing for her to be honored at these country music awards. But yes, I could do without the cover, and I've never even heard it.
Fair enough. All right. And this week is Tim's episode, so I will let Tim take it away.
Okay. So this week is another one of these ones where I've picked a word and I'm going to go with that. And this one has a little bit of a story behind it. So I've had a lot of expenditure recently, an unusual amount of expenditure.
Same.
And it's not just because I bought some cool guitars or I've bought a new computer or I bought a new TV. It's just I've had adult things I've had to buy. Cars needed to be repaired.
Property taxes had to be paid.
Yeah, town of Christiansburg tax and
then county of Montgomery and blah, blah, blah.
Tax. I had to buy new tires on my car, and then something else happened, and I still need to put a new battery in my car, which I'm going to wait until it gets cold. But that's a story for another time. and you know, it's been one thing after another thing after another thing after another thing, and then to top all of that,
yeah.
And we had a bad roof repair a number of years ago, a roof replacement a number of years ago that was terrible. And we needed to get it fixed for this winter. So we decided to draw a line under these jokers who attempted to replace our roof before and get a proper company in to do it. So shout out to Senvar Roofing because they did a great job. Anyhow, they stripped the roof off my house and they put a brand new roof on my house. And it looks like it's fantastic. I don't know whether it still leaks because it hasn't rained yet, but we keep our fingers, toes, and roofing shingles crossed. Anyhow, that was a huge expenditure, as you would imagine. So we've had, I think what they call in a trade, a fiscal cliff. Is that what you call it?
That's what I'm going to go with. By the way, Tim, I had a light in my house catch fire last night, so at least that one did happen to you.
Oh, a light catch fire?
So above our kitchen sink, we have like it was one of those old school, like long LED light bulb type things. You know what I'm talking about, Tim?
It's like a fluorescent tube over the sink.
Yeah. So it went, let me recite this. We have a downstairs half bathroom. That's basically a closet. But it works so you don't have to go upstairs to the bathroom every time. You know what I mean, Tim? It's functional, but it's tiny. And it had one of those in there. Well, one day when Charlie was using the bathroom in the tiny closet, it went out. And so he was in the dark. And it was a whole joke of ours because it's very dark down there. But anyway, the other day I was like, well, Charlie, because we kept saying when we go to the store, we'll pick up one of these bulbs. So we just didn't, right? And I said, just take the one over the sink off and put it in the bathroom because we never used the one over the sink. So he did that. And then we went out and we bought a replacement. Well, Charlie installed the replacement above the sink, and when he did, it started flaming, and bolts shot out of it, like bolts. That's not the word. Flames shot out of it, and things happened, and now we have a whole new one that was installed today.
Yikes!
Well, yeah, that happened to me. So if it makes you feel any better, Tim, you did not. At least it didn't catch fire.
Well, that's good. I'm glad it didn't. Yeah, we replaced all of the light fixtures in this house with LEDs, and in fact, we have exactly the same thing as you describe it in our kitchen, and it was like from 1980 or something, and we got the exact replacement thing for it, but it now has LEDs in it rather than a fluorescent tube.
That's exactly what we did, and it's much nicer. Charlie installed it, but he said there was like the capacitor, and there was it was a whole thing.
Yeah,
like guys. So that's what happened to me.
Well, I'm very glad that you was around to see it do that and then switch it off really quick.
Yeah, we took the bulb out after that happened and turned it off, and now it's gone.
Well, that is good. Well, anyway, with regards to all of our various expenditures, this week's episode is called Money Songs. So I'm celebrating currency, whether you have a lot of currency, whether you've spent a lot of currency, or whether you're just aware of currency. So this is Money Songs, and these are all songs that have money in the title.
You need to have like a little, like, we always joke about sounding like a morning zoo, just something that like in the end or the beginning of the episode that's just money, 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 money.
Well, I tell you what I could do as a sound effect. So I have it here. So as we know, Brian May plays guitar with a coin. He plays guitar with a British sixpence coin, non-decimal currency. I have a number of these for playing my Brian May guitar. So this will be our sound effect, and maybe Zoom will probably take it out.
I hear nothing.
I just dropped like 10 of them on the desk.
Not a word. Zoom was like, bye. I hear the tiniest clink, and that was it.
Well, how about that? Let me turn the noise reduction off. 1 second. Here we go.
Now we hear it. Yay!
There we are. I turn the noise reduction back on now. Anyhow, that was your sound effect. I'm sure you probably enjoyed that, and it was worth it.
All right. Well, anyway.
Okay, so let's start with the first money song. I picked out a bunch of money songs. Some of them are obvious, and I think some of them may be ones you might have not thought of for a while. But the first one that I'm opening with, and of course, this is the big money song, if you're in the kind of universe that Joy and I are in. This is Money, Money, Money by ABBA.
That is one of my favorite, like actually maybe top 3 ABBA songs. Because I'm constantly going, I work all night, I work all day. Like, I can't sing the whole thing, but when I get annoyed and I'm having to spend money, I always, and then she's like, ain't it sad? It's like accurate. Just, I've never heard a song about working that's more accurate, Tim.
Yeah, this is such a great song. I remember being in Sweden one time, and there was a Swedish version of MTV. They had MTV Europe, but there was a channel which was a Swedish channel which was very similar that was on at the time when I was there in the early 2000s. And I remember being in a hotel somewhere watching it, and ABBA's Money, Money, Money came on. I was like, this is just perfect. I'm in Sweden and I'm listening to ABBA.
I mean, it was meant to be. I can't think of anything better, Tim. But yeah, this of all of them might be the one that I probably think the most of. Like once a week, whenever I buy a bill or I'm working, I always think I work all night. It always happens. It's wonderful. If you've never heard this song, also musically, I really love the way it sounds. Like it's got a very rich sound to it. It's kind of different than the rest of the ABBA songs.
Yeah, it's almost like it's kind of, I don't know what's the word I'm looking for. It's operatic because it comes down to a dum bum 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 bum, and then it comes back up again.
And it does that throughout. And when she's doing like the actual singing parts, like it matches it. And like even when she's talking, the jokes that I was making, it goes from like a high to a low constantly throughout the whole song, and it makes it feel like it's giving and taking. Almost like money, I guess. I never really thought about it, but that's kind of what they were going for.
There we are. Well, as we know, Benny and Bjorn are geniuses.
I can't believe I've never really thought about that till you pointed it out. But yeah, it does do that. And it almost, it reminds me of like an ocean in that sense, like just up and down, up and down.
Mm-hmm. And one thing I've found from my Swedish Duolingo, Bjorn is Swedish for bear.
Huh. Okay, speaking of bears, this has nothing to do with money, but it is about a bear, and I have been wanting to talk about this for a while. And my twin sister is on a mission, by the way, Tim. I'll explain this. So, for those who do not know, when I was little, we used to rent VHS tapes from the library. I know, that was a thing. Crazy, everybody. I was probably like 6, 5, maybe, I'm talking, I was pretty young. And when we would go to the library, my mom would occasionally let me rent whatever I saw there. So there was this video, and I swear to you, Tim, it exists. I cannot find it. For those who do not know, I have searched the archives of the internet, personally called Bill Gates and asked him if I'm missing anything, because I swear there was these dancing bears that danced to disco music that I distinctly remember a whole tape of. It was mostly Bee Gees music. It looked like a tiny little, like a teddy bear, but he was a cartoon, but he was kind of like in the real world. And I distinctly remember him dancing and singing to like the Bee Gees. And he was walking through a field, and then he's like up on a hill. And like in the Bee Gees like videos where they're like sticking their heads out like little things and like peeking at you, stuff like that. I was popular. He was doing stuff like that. And there was a hole, and I remember being pretty enjoyed it, and I rented it multiple times in a row. It's not the gummy bears that you find. Oh, yeah, I'm a gummy bear. Yes, if you Google, you might find this gummy bear. It's not bananas and pajamas bears. Like, I've been down every one of these roads. But if someone out there, it seems like it was almost like a BBC type like kids show, Tim.
Mm-hmm.
But if somebody out there knows about the disco bears, I have talked to Tim about them like probably 7 times, because every once in a while they pop up in my head again, and I still can't find them.
Well, there we are. That's a call to action to our fans of this podcast. If you know anything about what Joy's been speaking about, please let us know. We need to get this thing put to rest once and for all.
But Brandy, my twin sister, was going to go back to Gaylak's library where we rented this VHS and see if it's still there. If she hasn't done that, I need to bug her about that, because she only lives 2 towns over. So she was like, I'm going to drive over there, see if they still have it. Because if it is, so there is a thing about kids like remembering things that didn't happen to him. And like sometimes you could tell a story enough that you both learn it when it, that's what kids don't make good witnesses. But Brandy also remembers the disco bears. So we're either both remembering this wrong, or some VHS out there had singing bears. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
Okay, well, there we are. That's a call to action to our fans.
I realized that went on a lot longer, but as soon as you said bears, I had to get that out there.
There we are. Okay, well, let me move on to another money song. This is Prince and the New Power Generation, and Money Doesn't Matter Tonight.
I kind of figured this one would be on here, but it's a song that I forget about a lot from Prince. I don't know what. I'm trying to put into words what I feel about this song, but I don't really have any particular thoughts towards it. It's very Prince to me.
Yeah,
I don't know how to explain it.
I would consider it, I'd say later generation Prince, but he had quite the career after the New Power Generation era of the band. It's very mellow.
Mm-hmm.
I think Diamonds and Pearls from this era is probably a better song. Get Up is an absolutely fantastic song.
It's an amazing song. But one thing I will say, though, what I mean by it's very Prince is he seems like a person that money really didn't matter to. That's just the way he always came off.
No, I mean, he was wealthy beyond whatever he could ever imagine. And quite rightly for, the music that he created and the success he had. But no, he didn't strike you as someone who was sitting there counting his dollar bills in Paisley Park.
Yeah, I mean, it's easy to say that when you have a lot of money. We all realize that, as me and Tim are complaining about having to buy roofs and lights and things of that nature. But it's easy to say, oh, money doesn't matter when you have it. But to be fair, even if money did matter to him, the perception or the person he put out there was somebody who I feel like wanted people to think that he didn't care about money.
No,
do you know what I'm saying? That was his character.
Yeah, he was an artiste first and foremost.
Yes, that's the best way to say it, Tim. So, yeah, I mean, it sounds like him, but the words where he's like, push away, there's something like pushing away stuff. And then at the opening, like he talks about, money doesn't matter to me. And it's like he's talking to a girl about it. So, because every song's about a girl in my head. That's probably not true, but it still feels like but yeah, and so it feels very Prince, but it was very late. I mean, what was this album? Early 90s?
Let me have a look at the date on this one. Where are we? Show credits. It doesn't actually say.
Well, let's Google it. Money. You guys are hearing me typing away over here. Doesn't matter.
It's from 1991. It's from the album Diamonds and
Diamonds
Pearls.
and Pearls. Yep. I always find it funny. I don't know if you ever noticed this. Sometimes when you Google like albums, Tim, you know, on the right side it'll say like album, release, artist, and then genre. Sometimes the genre is not right. I don't know if you ever noticed that. They have some hilarious genres on there. Just as an FYI, guys.
Yeah, in the same way currently in Spotify, our podcast is listed as comedy.
Tim, just dang.
Yeah, I've actually, I've now got a podcaster login for Spotify. I claimed it as ours, and you can actually change the genres and stuff like that. And I've changed it to music and things like that. I don't know how long it takes to filter through, but up to when I did that, it was just in the comedy genre.
Now you know what they think of our podcast. Like, it's lightly about music, but all I hear is a lot of banter about how big elevators are. I don't know why, but when Tim said that, it made me laugh because it's just funny. All right. Yeah. What can I say, Tim? You put me on the podcast. You know, I know how to make people laugh.
There we are, see. There we are. Okay, well, let's move on to the next one in the money list. So this one is from Simply Red, and this is Money's Too Tight to Mention. Okay,
so I'm glad you brought up this band because I've went through kind of a weird Simply Red obsession recently.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that they were super popular in the U.S. because they're from British. Shocker, everybody.
Mm-hmm.
With that being said, they're kind of like soul meets pop. And I don't know if you talked about one of these songs, but somebody was talking about a song called Holding Back the Years.
Yes.
And I was like, I vaguely feel like I know that. And I got started down a wormhole, and I've been listening to them a lot recently. And it never dawned on me that the guy had red hair until after I watched like 7 videos. So that I looked up and went, oh, he has red hair.
Yeah, that's why it's Simply Red, because Mick Hucknall from Simply Red has red hair.
Thanks, Tim. Yeah, I get that now. But it was just funny because I was just like clicking. Somebody, it was you, or maybe it was Phil Reese, was telling me something about, because sometimes he sends me different artists and stuff he wants me to look at. And I wasn't super familiar with them. And I started clicking. And like there was that Air You Breathe, there was Sunrise, there was like all these like big songs by them that were the ones recommended. And I was like looking and I was clicking and I was clicking. And then I was like, oh, I bet it's Simply Red because he has red hair. But I realized that I didn't realize that till after like 4 videos. So,
well, you know, sometimes it just takes a while for it to all click, you know.
Yeah, it's like, yeah. But I'm glad you said that because, I mean, Money's Too Tight to Mention. It's pretty on brand for the way I feel right now, too, Tim.
Exactly. But I mean, this is a song sort of early on in Simply Red's career. And this is a song I remember sort of growing up in the 80s.
Yeah, and I think is it a cover? Isn't there another version of this song?
There are probably covers since. I think this is the original version. I believe it is.
They may have been the first ones to record it, and maybe I'm thinking something else, but I feel like there was 2 African-American guys who did it. Something Brothers. Don't quote me on that, internet. Sorry, Tim, I didn't mean to cut you off. Just don't quote me on that because that could be wrong. Tim's like, geez, I was just trying to talk. Is that what this podcast is for? I have to. But anyway, yeah, I only recently learned of this band. I'm going to be honest with you because I just don't know that they were popular here. So I want to say you said something about them in a podcast, and I went down a rabbit hole.
Yeah, there is a really good live album of theirs. I believe it's Simply Red at the Albert Hall, where they do all the classic songs and a bunch of covers and other stuff. So, and I was listening to that several months ago, and I was like, this is a really good band. And the thing is, you know that Mick Hucknall was a great singer, but I'd never really given it a lot of thought. And I've listened to it, I was like, yeah, this is good.
Are they still touring, do you think?
I don't know. I mean, maybe they are. I mean,
maybe, possibly. I don't know. I was just curious. I don't know if there was a reason in the UK, you know, that they disappeared. But yeah.
They are indeed. They are indeed. Their next concert is November the 25th at the London Palladium.
Dang, Tim. You know, you missed out on all those concerts in London. It keeps coming back to haunt you.
Yeah, I know. What are you going to do? I'm sitting here in Southwest Virginia with my beautiful new roof. I mean, I'm living the dream, Joy.
Tim's like, I'm not, I can't afford any concerts, but I got a roof. All right, moving along. What's the next song?
Okay, so this one is another pop song from the 80s, and this is the Pet Shop Boys, which again is, I don't think it's an artist that we've really covered a great deal on this podcast.
Yeah.
And this is a song, Opportunities. Let's make lots of money.
Now, that's a band that was, I think, relatively popular in America in the 80s. I mean, they had some of their cliche songs, but I remember their music videos being very different from what you saw a lot in the 80s in America.
Yeah,
Like,
they were. Yeah, and they were very unique in their style because, you know, it was electro pop, really, and it was only the two of them, Neil Tennant being the singer. I can't remember the gentleman name who plays the keyboards and programs everything. Is it Lowe something?
I wouldn't know, Tim. I barely know them as the Pet Shop Boys, if I'm being completely honest. I know that one guy wears a bowler cap and has glasses.
There we are, Chris Lowe. And Neil Tennant being the singer.
Yeah, I've heard his name.
So it's only ever really the two of them. And when they perform live, it's only ever really the two of them. Yeah, and they have dancers and they have other people on stage, but it's really only ever the two of them. But their style was very unique because, you know, it was this electro pop. And it's not like he was rapping. He was like almost speaking the narrative of the song. And it was very different from anything else. And I don't know whether they were the first people in that sort of genre, but I don't know. Very unique sounding.
Yes, I will say, and they played into, I talked about that documentary I watched, like the beginning of MTV as a whole. And when MTV first started, most of the videos they were pulling, because videos were more of a thing in the UK, and it was banned like the Pet Shop Boys. And they talked about that those type bands were much more expressive in their music videos, where in America, mostly it was just stand there and you sing.
Yeah.
So I remember the Pet Shop Boys, Billy Idol, two different Billies. And those type bands were a lot. David Bowie was another one. They talked about that most of their heavy rotation at the very beginning of MTV were those bands on repeat because one, they would let them use it, but two, because they actually had music videos. I mean, I guess I grew up so much, you know, in the 90s that just, you know, music videos were part of the culture at that point. But I learned very quickly that apparently the UK was up on their music videos long before America.
Yeah, because we had Top of the Pops, and that's pretty much what drove that.
And we had like Bandstand, but they were performing live on Bandstand. It wasn't like a video, you know what I mean? And so that's where it was a little bit different.
Yeah, you had Bandstand, you had Soul Train, and I think there was some other similar shows. But yes, you either performed
variety shows.
Yeah, you either performed live in the studio, or if not, you just had people dancing around.
Yes, and it would be like, you know, they would be singing. It was kind of like, the Ed Sullivan Show, Tim. That's the one we were trying to think of.
Yeah.
Which famously, you know, we've talked many times. There's a lot of different artists that were on there, and it was taped over. They weren't singing live most of the Ed Sullivan Show, but I would say the Beatles Ed Sullivan Show is probably the most popular Ed Sullivan Show ever.
I would imagine so. I mean, a lot of people say that's like a point in history where, you know, a lot of musicians' lives change. I remember like Steve Lukather, the guitarist from Toto and session guitarist, he said that, you know, he saw that and he's like, yeah, that's what I want to do. And it was like that evening just changed the course of history for so many people.
There you go. I mean, but yeah, I didn't know. I mean, I guess it makes sense though. Think about artists like, well, you even talked about like Elvis. They were always just standing on stage singing. Yeah. Anyway, so the Pet Shop Boys were very important to the beginning of MTV. That's the summary.
There we are. Fantastic. All right. Well, let's move on to the next song. Now, I couldn't do a money song without this one, and I do really love this song. And this is Bare Naked Ladies, as If I Had $1 Million.
I just think of that commercial. Were you in the United States when that was a commercial, Tim?
No, but you have spoken of it before.
So there was this commercial, and it was just like, I don't remember what it was advertising. I want to say it was like early. Let me just Google it. If I had $1 million commercial.
Yeah, I'd never heard of it until you mentioned it.
Oh, it was the Lotto, the New York Lotto. And
Oh,
so
okay.
it's a lot of commercial. And there would just be people just sitting there singing, "If I Had a Million." It would just go through everybody's heads. And that's all I ever can hear or see. So I didn't even live in New York. So why I was singing it so much, I don't know. But it stayed with me after all this years.
Well, I would imagine because you was probably living with Charlie at the time, and he's doing something funny with DNS routing on your router in your house, which means it's not geolocating you to Virginia or where you was living, and you was probably getting some kind of weird New York IP address, which is why you've got it.
We'll go with that, Tim. That sounds accurate. But I mean, I thought it was funny that, like, I mean, it's weird how that happens, though. The other one that happened to me was there was Vanilla Ice did a version of Ice Ice Baby. That was for like macaroni and cheese. That also sticks with me. So marketing can really do a good job because I still remember that to this day.
There we are.
So they have a lot. Now I've seen some commercials in the UK, and they've got some really random commercials. Sometimes they make American commercials look almost boring.
Well, I'm a secret lemonade drinker. All whites. All whites. No.
Okay. No, not a thing. I'm guessing it's a commercial about lemonade.
That would be correct.
The one that I think of is, if you're looking for an hourly rate, if you're looking for, went to high school, didn't do great. Now I got to make more cash. More education is what I'm looking for. If I get a degree, there was a stupid commercial, and it was one of those companies that like used to like promote the online schools, like University of Phoenix, when they were still like huge. And it was this girl, and she'd be standing there, and she would sing that song to you. And it would be like, "Education Connection to find out your direction." And when you called it, you would get like, you call 1-800 number, and then you get spammed for the next 7 years from every online school.
Crikey.
But yeah, that's the one that comes to mind when I sing commercial songs. And hopefully we don't get copyrighted for my version.
I think we'll probably be fine, Joe, in all honesty.
I don't think Education Connection exists anymore.
There we are. All right. Well, let's move on to another song. So this one is Donna Summer, and She Works Hard for the Money.
So I heard this song growing up probably every week. So my mom, like I told you, was big into disco. We played a lot of Donna Summer in our house. And she would always, there's a local radio station called 99.1. I'm sure Tim's heard of 99.1. They're famous in the Christmas time for like, they're probably already playing Christmas music. Like that's like one of their big things. But anyway, every Saturday they did a disco night. And if I was out with my mother in the car, that would be on repeat. She would listen to it. And I remember this was one of their big ones.
Yeah.
And then it would end at like midnight with one of those like disco mixes from some DJ. It would be like Funky Town with Donna Summer and Staying Alive playing in the background. But I love this song. I'll sing it all the time. I can see the music video. Like this one's an iconic one for me.
Yeah, this is like something so classic from sort of the disco era. Donna Summer's music, especially around this, is so good. But I mean, yeah, this is one that I think of. I mean, you know, there's a number of great Donna Summer hits, but you know, this is one that's like bam.
Now I remember my mom would be like, you know how we always joke about, they used to sing about stuff, but they weren't as overt about it. Like back in the day, like they weren't so blunt about some of the non-PG things. Mm-hmm. And so I remember, you know, some of Donna Summer's song, not Last Dance. What's the one I'm thinking of? Hold on. Well, I mean, I Feel Love kind of has some innuendos or On the Radio, but she has like that one song where it's like beep. What is it? Hold on. God, hold on. I've got to look it up, guys, because if I don't think of it, it's going to drive me insane. It's one of those, well, there's Hot Stuff.
Yeah.
But like, my mom would be like, she would be like, I know it's not, On the Radio and Hot Stuff is probably the one. She'd be like, now I know, guys, that the topics in this one are a little bit, it's like she pointed it out to me when I was a kid that they were risque. And now I laugh thinking about it because I hear the songs that are on the radio now. And it's like, these are like nothing.
Yeah. The people's tolerance of that sort of stuff has gone way out the window.
Bad Girls, Tim. That's what I was trying to think of.
Yes, I know the one.
Yes, that's what I was thinking of. That was another big one. But I remember my mom talking about that, and now it's like nothing anymore.
Well, there we are. Society has moved on, Joy.
My mom was probably screaming at the podcast right now because she watches. She's like, "You know what song I was talking about? It's Bad Girls." But anyway.
There we are. All right. Well, let's move on to another money song.
That was a Stevie Nicks moment with Bad Girls. Anyway, next buddy song.
So I've gone not with the original version of this. I've gone with a live version. Now, this is the song Money, which is a Pink Floyd song. Mm-hmm. But I've gone with the version from the 2016 Live at Pompeii concert. Now, I think I've probably spoken about that concert before, where David Gilmour performed at Pompeii. Mm-hmm. It's the first live entertainment there since there was people with gladiators and lions and stuff. It was apparently the first time they'd ever had anything there. And David Gilmour did this tour 2015, 2016, where he played lots of interesting places. He said, I've played every stadium and arena everywhere around the world, and they're all pretty much the same. He said, I really want to play some interesting places. So one of the places he got to play was Pompeii. And they made a live concert of this, and it was in theaters for one night only. And Hannah and I went to see it. It was absolutely fantastic. And I think Dave Gilmour subsequently put the whole thing on YouTube for free. And it is such a good concert. His live touring band are absolutely superb. All of the Floyd material is so well done. All of his solo material, too, is really done. It's all around the era of the Rattle That Lock album that he had out. But this version of Money is absolutely fantastic.
And that's like he does it in the ancient Roman amphitheater there.
Yeah.
And so what's cool though, like I've looked this up after Tim's talked about it quite a bit on the podcast. And I guess I assumed Pompeii, like, I mean, I know what happened with the volcano and all the people, but I didn't realize that it basically just like time stayed the same there. Like most of the stuff is still the same. There's not a lot of people living there. Like there's like a historical like capsule in Pompeii. And I just assumed, it grew up like another city, but apparently it didn't.
No, absolutely not. And in Pompeii itself, the ruins are pretty much as was left. They haven't built anything. It's a World Heritage Site, and you can go and visit it as a visitor, and there's tours of it and all that kind of stuff. So to get it set up for a concert was very difficult because you couldn't have anyone touching the grounds. You couldn't have anyone touching any part of the building itself. So they had to build almost like an arena thing inside it to sort of protect, these ancient ruins. But yeah, it was the first time any entertainment had happened there since like gladiators and things like that.
Well, and I imagine Mount Vesuvius is still able to explode at any time. So
I would imagine
that's probably a factor why it hasn't regrown up.
Well, luckily it didn't erupt in 2016, allowing David Gilmour to do a very good concert there.
Back to the music. But yeah, I thought it was really cool. I've watched it since Tim's talked about it, and I've talked very heavily about Charlie really likes Pink Floyd, so we listened to it quite a bit, and it's an awesome concert. I would highly suggest going on YouTube. That's all I did. Yeah,
because David Gilmour's getting to the point, he's an older gentleman now, on the subject of money. Money is not really important to him anymore. He sold all his guitars off and donated it all off to a climate change charity, which was very important to him. And things like live concerts and albums and things like that, he's just throwing that stuff up on YouTube for free at this point. He's just like, well, I'm just sharing it. People like my stuff. Let me just put it out there. I don't need any more money royalties from this.
He probably assumes it's going to make its way out there anyway.
Yeah, so you might as well put it there in the best quality and everything is fine and people can enjoy it. Yeah, you might as well
have control of it.
Exactly.
And there we go. That's our theory on why it's on the internet. But yeah, I would highly suggest if you haven't seen it, and there's like some cool like artwork and it's just a cool concept. Now, I will say, and also if you're like me and dumb and didn't think that Pompeii was, I just assumed it was like a real functioning city now, but it's not.
Well, there we are. People don't come here for geographical facts, typically.
Yeah, it's not in my wheelhouse. There's very few things that are, and that is definitely not one of them. What was it one night I was trying to say? I don't know. I was trying to say Gaza, and I think I said something completely different. And Tim just stared at me and let me think about it for a minute. I was like, that wasn't right, was it? He was like, no.
As I've said many times before, one thing I always do is I just let joy be joy.
And that's how this podcast came to be. All right, what's next?
Okay, so this one is one that we've spoken about before, and I'd like to dedicate this one. This is the first time we've ever had a song on one of these episodes that I'm going to dedicate to anyone. And I'm dedicating this song to Phil Reese. who was a guest on our podcast, and he spoke about this song, and he said it reminded him of I think he was working in a restaurant when they were clearing up, and they'd always put this song on. And this is Dire Straits' "Money for Nothing."
And chicks for free.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's what comes to mind when I hear that. I've told you guys many times, Dire Straits is one of those bands that I love, but kind of have gotten to the point where, like, I feel like I had a friend who wanted to learn every single song they've ever done on guitar, and he was not a great guitarist. So I've heard them all. But I can see why this would be a fun song to play when you're closing.
Absolutely. You know, Phil told the story about, you know, that job that he was working, and that he was really pumping him up at the end of the shift. And that was like a tradition that they would put money for nothing on. You know, it's at this point an incredibly overplayed song. There's controversy with the lyrical content of this song. And Mark Knopfler said, you know, it's a character of someone else, and these are the words I heard in a warehouse in an electrical store, and, you know, all that kind of stuff. And that's been covered 100 times. But it's an iconic song and video from the MTV era.
And once again, another British band that probably was exactly what I was saying. So we started doing this, Seb, I didn't realize that all these music videos, because this one has a very famous music video. Now, I liked, if you've watched Live Aid, the performance with Sting, that's a really good performance too. And you kind of forget, I think Sting wrote the song.
Well, Sting performs on the song. He's doing the
that's his.
That is Sting.
Yeah, and it makes sense because I don't know that I ever put that together until I saw the Live Aid, Tim, and then I was like, oh, that's been him all along.
Yeah, and in fact, I'm looking in the credits, and yes, written by Mark Knopfler and Sting, or Gordon Sumner, as his friends call him.
As his friends call him. But another person with a very distinct voice. I find it funny, though, that with the I Want My MTV, once again, oh my gosh. So I explained in the last episode that was a real campaign from MTV to get kids to put MTV on the radio.
Yeah.
And then that made it into the song, Sting and Dire Straits being one of the big bands that opened, like I said, British. I guess the British really started MTV, Tim. Did you know that?
Well, I do now because, I mean, you know, I sort of knew that from some things I'd seen, but certainly you covering, I think we did an MTV episode or something like that several episodes ago, and you talking about how there was no music videos for US artists, and all you really had was British artists, and that's how they got their launch on MTV.
It's just weird now that we're talking about this, and now you're talking about the I Want My MTV in the background of the song, and then this, you know, this iconic music video. It's just really funny to me because you ever learn something, Tim, and you're like, yeah, it makes sense. But then as you go on, it starts to be solidified and you notice pieces of it in other places. I'm realizing it now.
There we are. Look at you.
Who would have thought? There is a brain up there. All right. Just one that doesn't know geography.
Well, there we are. I mean, you can't be an expert at everything, can you?
No, but I mean, at one point we were all together. The countries were all together, you know? So, I mean, do you really need to know geography? Is it really that serious?
I remember Pangea. I remember those days.
We were connected to Ireland, where we're at. I've always heard, gosh, don't come from me, this is wrong, but we're in Virginia. I've always heard we were connected to, like, Ireland and Scotland and Wales, and that's why the greenery is very similar.
Well, there we are. Well, maybe we'll do a, I don't know, the continents moving apart episode or something. I don't know.
Sometimes it gets a little hard to come up with episode topics. We've done a lot, Tim. All right. Well, now that we talked about everything but wanting your MTV, I guess we'll move along.
Yeah, so I'm going to do a couple more songs before we wrap up this episode. Now, I put this one in for you because I know you're a fan, so I could not have a money episode without this one. And this is AC/DC Money Talks.
Which is also one of my favorite AC/DC songs, probably top 4 or 5, something along those lines. So I'm glad you did it. I kind of thought this was going to be, I was like, if Tim doesn't say it, I'm going to be mad. Because I think The Razor's Edge. So The Razor's Edge is what the album this song is on. And it was early 90s. And it was later in their career. I feel like it's a vastly underrated album. I actually really love that album.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, some of those AC/DC albums outside of the Bon albums and outside of some of the classic ones like Back in Black, a lot, you know, they are very similar, really. I mean, it's a great sound, but they're interchangeable to some degree. But yeah, the Razor's Edge has got some very good, solid hits on it.
Well, I mean, it opens with Thunderstruck, and then Mistress for Christmas is on it. And if you've never heard Mistress for Christmas, you've got to. And I mean, the Razor's Edge is on it. But Money Talks and Thunderstruck are probably top tier AC/DC songs for me, even though they're later. I know, obviously, Brian Johnson singing on them in his early 90s, but I love it.
Yeah, I mean, Thunderstruck is always a favorite. I mean, that's just such a solid song. And when the whole band comes in, it's absolutely amazing. But like you say, Money Talks is a great song too.
And then Fire Your Guns, it goes Thunderstruck, Fire Your Guns, Money Talk. I remember that intro. It's a very cool intro to an album.
Yeah, it's good stuff. Good, solid rock music.
Plus, they've got tailored suits and chauffeured cars, hotels, and big cigars. No?
There we are.
Okay.
I mean, that's lyrical genius right there.
They rhymed cars with cigars. And they rhymed money with money talk. Money talk.
Well, as you know, my favorite Australian band, the Beards, they rhyme chocolate sauce with intercourse. So I mean that's quality songwriting.
I mean, it's better than rhyming summer with summer. If you know, you know.
Exactly. Yeah, but that's a song and an artist you don't care for. So we'll move on. Let's move on to the very last song on this episode. Now, we won't talk about it, but of course, a notable mention has to go to the Steve Miller Band's "Take the Money and Run." But we've spoken about that song many times. So
and there's lots of clapping.
Yeah. So we're going to close out with the OJs and the song "For the Love of Money."
Oh, that's a good choice, Tim. The OJs is a band I don't really feel like we've talked about on this podcast.
No, not in the slightest. Now, this is a great song. It was also used as the music for The Apprentice in the United States, and we, of course, do not need to talk about the host of that TV show. But it is a great song.
It took me a second to realize what even show that was, and I'm glad you said that very quickly. Now, it is a great song because I was thinking of the Money Buddy Buddy in the intro. Now, I have a very interesting kind of thing with this. So the OJ is a 70s R&B Motown kind of sound. For those that, if you're not familiar with the band, maybe more soul than Motown, whatever. I don't know if they were actually on the Motown record, so I did not look that up, but they have that sound. So with that being said, there was it was a Motown, one of the reunion tours, and they had quite a few bands, and they had quite a few artists that were kind of sitting around a table. And they did a version of this song where they hit on the table and they were singing it, and it was really cool. The For the Love, it was just it was very, very, very cool. And I always think of that version. I might need to hunt it out and send it to you, Tim. Had a bunch of different artists. It was probably the 20th, the 25th, one of those Motown concerts that we've all seen, in the past. But I distinctly remember it was an opening or maybe kind of an interlude. And my mom also made me watch a lot of those. And to my mom's credit, I enjoyed it. I sound like she held me hostage when I say made me watch. Sorry, Mom. It's probably not the best way to say it. But my mom always had those where give money type telethon things where people would artists would come on and sing. So it could have been one of those too. But there was a whole group of people from Motown sitting around a table. They did a few songs, but I remember this song being one of them. And they were literally doing that classic kind of just keeping a beat on the table themselves, singing in perfect harmony. And it was so cool.
Nice. Yeah. If you find that, send that to me. I'd be interested in seeing that.
And I remember it was just and so I always think of that. I just remember, of course, it says money 17,000 times is the opening.
Exactly. Money, 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 money.
Sorry, guys. You just went deaf because I just high pitched in your ear. But yeah, I can't ever think of us ever. Now, I wonder if the OJs are one of those bands that have had 37,000 members by now.
I would imagine so. You find a lot of those sort of vocal groups do have had so many members throughout the years. People retire, people get older. People come in and come out, and that's how that name is still out there, because they're still touring, but maybe there's nobody in the band that started it.
And they changed names. Like, I know at one time they were probably known as like the something else, and then they were Love Train is probably the song most people would associate with the OJs.
Sure.
And the one you still hear on the radio, used in movies, things of that nature. But if I had to guess, they probably had quite a few members come and go. It's still pretty cool to see, though. Yeah, I would like to see them. If they're still up there doing it, that would be a fun band to see. But, I mean, they had probably like 4 or 5 hits. Yeah,
Backstabbers. There's a few others as well.
Yeah, there you go. But yeah, that's, if I can find that, I'll send it to you. I remember that. And it was like some of the Motown greats singing. It was a really cool kind of interlude. And hopefully it's not like the Disco Bears and I'll never hear it again. It was actually a dream I had.
Well, we hope our listeners can pin down these Disco Bears.
I'm gonna go to sleep tonight. All that's gonna be happening is a little teddy bear's gonna be jumping around in my brain singing the Bee Gees at high pitch. Anyway, all right. What's the next one, Tim?
Well, that's it. That's all.
The last one.
Yeah, that's all I have on this particular topic. Once again, thank you for listening to our podcast. Please go on our Facebook page, facebook.com/No Name Musiccast. Share our posts, write some comments on there. We're just trying to build a community over on Facebook right now.
And if you're on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or Hit Clips or I don't know, whatever else is out there. I don't know why I've been on the Hit Clips thing recently. I'm never gonna let that one go. But whatever it is, we would love if you could give us a review. We currently have 2 reviews on Apple Podcasts. So if you could give us, only if you're going to give us a 5-star, though. If you're going to go below 5 stars, just skip it. It's fine.
Well, I mean, I'm happy to take constructive criticism. If you want to give us 3 stars and tell us why you don't like the podcast, do that too, because we try and make this show every week for everyone to enjoy. And if you think we should be doing something different, we will try and change it.
They're going to have a whole episode on, could that one spend 20 minutes trying to figure out a word? That's just going to be the criticism. All right. Bye.
See you later. Bye-bye.